Bankie Yahsonn. Real conversation. Lately we be having conversations with people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations with people, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, few got facts instead. We be having conversations with people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Tuesday night and everybody tuned in live. Bankie Yahsonn bringing reasoning every time. Talking politics and the things affecting lives. Breaking down the stories they be trying to hide. Used to trust the system, now the trust gone. Everybody talking loud, but the facts wrong. People tired of the fake and the gimmicks too, so they coming to these topics for a clear review. Got the whole Caribbean locked on the station. Real entertainment network building conversations. No script vibes, now stage for the camera. Just real people talking straight with stamina. And we be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations with the people, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, you got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Sometimes Fridays got a special live session. Big topics got the whole place stressing. Agriculture, crime, economy discussion. Every episode spark another conversation, and the comments start flying when the lights start. Everybody got a view from the heart. Some agree and some disagree too, but at least these topics bringing real views.
And we are live and ready for another edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. It's another beautiful Tuesday evening here in the Federation of Oli and Layamiga, indigenous names for the islands known as Nevis and St. Kitts. And we also want to say good evening to our brothers and sisters throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean. Also, depending on where you may be geographically, morning, afternoon, or evening, some one of those greetings may be applicable to you. Want to say a very, very special good evening to all those who are usually locked on, whether it is via our Facebook page, our YouTube platform, or Twitch TV, as we stream simultaneously on the three platforms. So we want to say a very special thank you to all of you who make it your business to log in every Tuesday. And we want to encourage you to take a minute or take a couple of seconds and like, subscribe, share, click on the notification bell. So if you're in for the first time, please be free to share with someone and leave it and let them also be able to share the experience the discussions and engage in the topics. For this evening, we are going to, at a very early point in the show, allow for you to get an opportunity to call in, but we're going to have a section where we give our guests an opportunity to speak to us and for us to engage her with some questions. And for those of you on the platform as well, we are going to, as much as possible, try to read and read out your questions and comments. However, usually when we have a guest like this, sometimes the comments are so much that we do not get through all. So I want to apologize early up front. If that does not happen, it is not intentional. All right. With that said, I want to encourage you to go onto the YouTube platform, subscribe, while I'm taking this time, subscribe, share, make sure that, you let everybody, even if you're your enemy, share it with them. All right. This evening we have our special guest, Dr. Honorable Janice Daniel-Hodge, and also with us, my usual co-host, Shabazz Bankie King, and you, our listening audience. We look forward to a very engaging discussion this evening, and I would now introduce my co-host, and then I would read a brief introduction or bio of Miss Daniel Hodge, and then we would give her the floor and the microphone to add or challenge anything we present, or correct. Let me not say challenge, but correct anything that we present, and give her opening remarks. So that would be the format. If you're just joining us and just listening, we welcome you once more. Shabbos Bankie King, greetings, welcome.
Greetings, Yahsonn, and greetings to our guest, Janice. Greatly appreciate you taking the time out and being present to face the general public and those listening here on the island of St. Kitts and Nevis and them in the diaspora. So let me say good evening to the folks that tune in to Real Entertainment Network. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. You could have chose any other media house, but it shows that you have that interest in the discussion that we have here every week and the guests that we tend to bring and have the discussion that goes on within the Federation and regionally or internationally. This evening is no difference. Let me say good evening to the folks. Also, at the sound of my voice, whichever is applicable, good afternoon, good evening. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Yahsonn, I just want to say, for those in the agricultural sector, we're getting some real extreme heat weather around this time, which it's normal throughout this time, especially from March coming down to May, June. The summertime, we get extreme, the Sahara dust. So the uses of water is very important and stuff like that. So when it's come to we're getting into some of those discussions at the same time. But for farmers, I mean, right now I'm doing another pruning and putting the dry leaves around the base of the fruit trees and the banana trees and stuff like that to keep down, because it's windy, so now you got to be creative in keeping your moisture at the base of the stuff like that. So we got to be very efficient. The same for animals, make sure you have water close to the animals when they're out feeding, where you have them tied, it can affect them and stuff like that, because they can get, is dehydrated and can cause them real health issues and stuff, and lose even up to death. So same thing with the chickens, them in the poultry. I mean, it can stress the animal and stuff, prevent laying of eggs and all these different stuff. So it's very important. Water is and as for us to stay hydrated at the same time and be careful in the way we are long sleeve and hat and stuff like that. So just wanted to put that out there. And also let me say thanks for all those who come at Mansour's Last Stop and Shabbos Organics. Sure, they can continue in support and keep my Uncle Mansour legacy alive. Greatly appreciate each and every customer and treat every customer the same. Nothing, so you can't really take people. You have to give people who patronize your business card, they have a choice to go other places. So, and we can't say thank you enough. So, Yahsonn, just want to say definitely is happy to see our guests here and definitely looking forward for the reasoning. And just want to say to those listening to the sound of my voice, just be respectful and you're free to call in and ask the question. The telephone number will be 1-869-662-7196. So, Janice, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Bankie, and to you as well, Yahsonn. And of course, I take this opportunity to say good evening to all who are tuned in and listening here at home and across the diaspora, especially, of course, to those here in the constituency of St. James's. And I do deem it an opportunity to be able to have this evening, to have discussions with you, as you said, Bankie, the reasoning. And I think we need a lot more reasoning rather than the arguments that we see quite often. And, it is a situation where we recognize that, I am the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. Of course, we know that under the Nevis Reformation Party, Nevis has seen many days of prosperity. We've seen many days where people are able to feel proud to be Nevisians. And so I deem it definitely an honor to be, the leader at this point in time. There are many challenging issues that we must deal with. And I think that this is definitely the right time for NRP to take the helm of government and put Nevis back on the path of prosperity to address the important issues. We hear oftentimes that we must minimize our reliance on external sources for energy. We can see the way that it is impacting our businesses right now, our homes. It is really a major issue, but we are not seeing what is being done by this existing government to help address that issue. We understand that, we must enhance food security. And what we're seeing is that our lands are being lost, due to development pressures. And in terms of food security, we're not really having that as a focus and as a priority. We also must empower our people to help, participate in nation building. These are opportunities that, as a government, we must provide. And these are the things that we're not seeing at this point in time. And I must say, ultimately, what is important to any country, any small island developing state, knowing that the challenges that we face, many of which are not, inherent, but they're from external sources. You must have leadership where you can have trust and confidence and feel that, if your leader tells you that we need to go left, you should feel confident that my leader has my best interest at heart, and so we're prepared to go left if this is what my leader says. What we're seeing now is the complete opposite. And so I'm very happy for this opportunity to be able to dialogue with you and to answer any questions that you may have. I'm here with an open slate tonight, so I'm happy to address any questions. Of
Beautiful.
course, we know we must look at the destiny issue. We must look at what's happening at the airport. We must look at what's happening at the Alexandra Hospital. There's so many issues. It's very difficult to prioritize, but I would say where we are right now, destiny, the hospital, because of course your health is your wealth, the Alexandra Hospital, food security. These are all issues that must be dealt with in a proper way in order for your country to advance.
Beautiful.
All right.
Son.
Yes, and great opening remarks and opening statement, Honorable Janice Daniel-Hodge. What I'll do at this point, I'll go through that brief bio, and then we will get back to the well, we will play a snippet of a track, and then Bankie would kick things off with some of the questions that he has in mind. So, um, Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge is a businesswoman, environmental consultant, and the first woman to lead a political party in St. Kitts and Nevis. Born April 17, 1962 in England, and she is the daughter of former Premier of Nevis and national hero, the late Sir Simeon Daniel. She holds degrees in biology from St. Francis College, New York, microbiology from Alabama A&M University, and an additional degree from the University of the Virgin Islands. Before entering politics full-time, Dr. Daniel-Hodge served as director and chairperson of the Bank of Nevis Limited from 2006 to 2016, and currently sits on the board of the Bank of Nevis International Limited. In September,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Yahsonn. Correction. No longer sit at the board of the International Bank, so that's
Oh,
so
okay.
that's void. Yes.
You should be able to correct it when I'm through. In September
Okay.
2020, she became the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, and we elected unopposed in November 2024. In the 2022 Nevis Island Assembly election, she won the seat for District 4, St. James's Parish, and was sworn into office on January 19, 2023, as the NRP's representative. Dr. Daniel-Hodge is a passionate environmentalist, advocate for sustainable development, climate change action, and protection of Nevisian patrimony. And that's the brief bio that we had. Like I said, I'm going to give you the microphone now to correct anything, add anything that you would want to, and after that, then we would get into a track that we want to feature and give a little bit of promotion, and then Bankie would have some questions. So the mic is yours, Dr. Janice Hodge.
Thank you. And so definitely, as Banky was expressing to you, I would have resigned as a director of it is now called the Bank of New Innovation. I did sit as a director for some time, but I am no longer there. My focus right now is really on the politics and trying to bring about change and to make sure that we can do what is in the best interest for the people of Nevis. I think that is and I think you mentioned that I ran unopposed. I can't recall. In the federal, I was opposed by Alexis Jeffers, and in the local election, I was also opposed by Alexis Jeffers. So there's no point when I ran unopposed. Most of
Okay.
the information that you provided is accurate. So thank you for that.
But thank you very much. Technician, if you're listening, you can interject that clip, and
Well, let's
then
show us a sign if you're ready, and at least I give a little introduction before we play the song. So, technician, you
okay,
can show signs if you're ready. If you're ready for the song, go ahead, yes, son.
okay,
Okay. This song I'm about to play, the name of the song is "Time Like These," and as you hear me pronouncing "Time Like These," I got to give thanks to Valerie Thompson. She's the one who dragged me when I enter high school and make sure I speak properly. I couldn't pronounce. When you by school, you says though, and you're pronouncing the T and stuff like that. So she makes sure have me for the staff room until I get it right and stuff. So I gotta appreciate that she improved my reading and stuff like that. So I just had to say that. But the song is Time Like This, and it's by RJ. I don't know the gentleman, but I know the producer, Project Reveal, that's Stephen Richards. I mean, a young and very talented gentleman. And Time Like This, it shows that every time you hear the young people not doing well and they causing mischief, but it shows that that is not true. We have a lot of talented and progressive youths within our community doing great things, and they should be honored and be highlighted. And this gentleman who wrote this song, I want to encourage people to find this song and listen to it and help him, because he going places. I know people going places, and he going places because just what's going on right now, we all can relate to this song. So it shows the young people paying attention. They're not as stupid as you think as they are. Is now, So we're gonna play the song and then we come back into the discussion and we go from there. Technician.
Yo, Steven, what project you revealing?
Me biggest stay focus. Joey get your silly gon' try me bitchin'. You ever smell the scent of gunpowder? Then there a mother ballin' no to the lad. She son walk out and drop out so would you believe Banshee front porch? Them things are not easy. Me see a mother go my cause she lose she want pick me. Giving her me out to the sun to pass and in times like these, times get rough with these absentees. No worry about the lies you have to pray to Jah. Pull up the fake as him got you this far. Nobody study about the nice. Think about your family, think about the happy times. Now let them tell you say you never wear the cause of lies. Keep your eyes and focus cause they done the pan the price. Too much of people you have fight villain, but a foreigner come in them. Get anything they want. All up to the farmers I get this place so come like we turn to a joke. What a disgrace. Them done stop all the pop. Now a lot of single mothers struggling. You not see no community pop bubbling. You ever notice say a lot of youths homeless? Are you blind like the politician them in them big yard, them big yard. You speak up, them turn into one big yard. Watch how them lock up Nubian. First Bankie tell me what they really do to man. Tell me. Them a talk about mismanagement when them a do the same thing all in parliament. Sad if you want, turn on your life and start a business. Them will tell you you're not qualified. Me beg you stay focused and try get a win. Joey get your silly gon' try me bitchin'. No time for relax or fi grind me bitchin'. Just try to keep your eyes upon the goal. You got a purpose. No matter what them tell you say you weak.
Yes. And big up RJ. Yahsonn. You take them, you not pay attention. You not pay attention, Virgin. Plenty attention.
The lyrics deep and very timely. Listening to the lyrics, you can tell that as a youth, he is paying attention to what's going on and is in touch with what is going on and is able to address what is going on in lyrics and in song. And it is quite quite impressive. Quite an impressive track. We definitely would have to get some time to probably get in touch with the artist and give him an opportunity to, showcase and promote the track here as well eventually. But a couple of things jump out in the track. I mean, he spoke about land and how difficult it is for us to be able to get things done, but then the same politicians try to make it so easy for foreign investors and others to come in and get things done. He spoke about the cannabis industry and how you and Nubian get locked up and so on, and still, I mean, a lot of things that's been touched in the track. But I'm gonna let you get into asking Janice Daniel-Hodge some questions.
Yes, and I'll just say big up Project Reveal, Stephen Richards and RJ. Big up yourself, great track, and you guys going places. As the song speak about land and foreigners coming and getting a more opportunity and stuff like that, we can spend a lot of time thinking. Is you realize we are in an election season? It seems like, I know, I'm not sure if the boundary should be changing, but one of our major thing is that, and I know this had happened before under Bradshaw, but somehow it has changed under, I'm not sure if it's under the Simmons administration. I stand to be corrected. But like Antigua and St. Vincent and other places, I've realized being around people like that, when election time, those around me don't leave to instead of going to vote because they have stipulation in the country. And I've realized a lot of money have been spending over the years within St. Kitts and Nevis, flying in voters, bringing in people, and at the same time, things here are left undone. Even some people who haven't. It's a ticklish topic to touch, but it's something that needs to be addressed. So I'm bringing it forth, and it's something I've been thinking about a while now, and it need to cause what happening. A lot of our police decision makers are being made by non-nationals, people from Santo Domingo, Haiti, all over the place, all over the Caribbean. They're not living here right now, but when it's time to come to vote, they fly back in. Not just is our own people, but it's people throughout the region, the Commonwealth and stuff like that. So what is NRP planned? How does NRP see this when it comes to 11, at least sending 6 months within the year months? I just leave it how it is. And when it comes to putting a set date for 11, what is the way forward when it comes to we having an election and not just things, it just landing on somebody's hand, and when it comes to who votes in this election, what's the way forward?
Well, the way forward is definitely we have to look at electoral reform. We speak about it every 5 years leading up to an election, and then a party gets elected and it takes the back seat. We understand that the electoral office and the operations of the electoral office falls under the remit of the federal government. And I think, back when we had the elections of 2015, when the concerned citizen movement was actually part and parcel of the federal government, I think that was really an opportunity to push some of these things that they campaigned against. It is very difficult, especially on Nevis, when we are uncertain about the date of the election. And so you can see right at the onset, if you don't know the date of the election, it's very difficult for you to prepare effectively to contest an election. When a party is in government, the access to resources becomes an issue, because then they're able to bring in people, to participate in the electoral process, as you said. And I do believe, I think it is widely held that the Nevis Reformation Party would have won the last election despite all of the shenanigans that went on. And, the issues were raised with regards to the illegal registration of voters, the illegal marriages that led to people being, placed on the voters list. And, this is something that once NRP is in government, we would continue to advocate and rally to ensure that we can have free and fair elections. I mean, you hear people speaking about free and fair elections, but when in government, nothing is done to address that issue. And whether it's because it works out to be to their advantage or not, we cannot continue speaking about democracy and empowering people and people have the right to vote when the system can be so easily manipulated. And so this is something that we definitely will want to advocate for time specific for when the election is going to be held. At least that is one way of beginning to level the playing field. I mean, imagine, playing a game, any game, and you don't know when the bell is going to be rung. How do you effectively prepare? And some people have likened it to a race. You're gearing up. Are you going to be running a 100-meter sprint, or are you going to be running, a 1,200-meter race? It's a different type of preparation. And so I know people have reached out to me about NRP and our preparation for the upcoming elections. And we are trying to be as focused as we can be. We're trying to be ready because not only do we not know when the election is going to be, we do not know which election is going to be first, whether it's going to be a federal election or a local election. And so when you look at all of these factors, you recognize that if we are really going to be speaking about upholding democracy and ensuring that we have free and fair elections in our country, then we recognize that some changes must be made. We cannot continue like this because, the records will show that the incumbents are always at an advantage. And it's very difficult for a party in opposition to break that tide. And so we continue to advocate. I mean, we have had marches with regards to what's happening at the electoral office. We know people, their names will be moved from one polling district to a different polling district, sometimes even without the knowledge of the voter. And people are being registered. Sometimes they do not meet the necessary requirements. There's no due diligence at the electoral office to ensure that people meet the necessary requirements. And so there are many areas that can be improved if we really want to speak about upholding democracy and ensuring that, the voters do have a say. It's very difficult to say that the voters have a voice and they vote for who they want when the system is not fair, when the system can be rigged in so many ways. And so definitely we cannot continue like this. And certainly with an NRP government, this is something that we would advocate for to ensure that the necessary measures are put in place. Whatever changes we may need to make in the legislation to ensure that our elections would actually reflect the wishes of the people on the ground who vote on election day.
Definitely,
you know,
I think you answered the question when it comes to definitely we need to have a date permanently set. And we all know when it's time for election in the US and they start this and then at least you have some areas where that you have to share so your campaign financing and stuff come from. But I'm not sure if you're being specific and comment on anything when asked about the time place where if election is called tomorrow, then all parties, whether it's federal, local, plane load of people gonna start flying coming in, and that is I have an issue with that. That is just my personal views. I'm not sure how you see something like that, because a lot of the decisions that are made, yes, people pay taxes, but there are those who never even come to Nevis for 50, 60 years and make a simple decision. They stay in a hotel, they get rent a car. Can I hear people speak like this? Some bring them in, they don't vote for them who bring them in. They do all kind of things. And then when we are who naga water, who get high taxes or increase, then I get this, then I feel the heat, then I in the kitchen. So Antigua and St. Vincent don't have this problem. I, for
Right.
one, know if these things are changed where you have to be on the ground to vote, the election will be totally different because who here needs is what the who here want, not who comes in and leave, make a decision, and that is really fairness. But it's something gonna have to be
Yeah.
discussed. I alone can make the decision.
Yeah. So generally, in terms of electoral reform, we do not have a residency requirement. And so,
Yes.
people could come in today. Some of them don't even know what their address is. They can come in and vote. So when you're looking at electoral reform, all of these matters that would have to be addressed with regards to residency requirements, with regards to fixed date elections, even with regards to term limits for the prime minister, etc. So it is definitely a comprehensive approach that would have to be looked at if we are setting out to try to ensure that we can give to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis free and fair elections. I think the key word is fair. It is not fair when you have, as you said, those who can afford to bring in plane loads of people who have not lived here, who are not, suffering the consequences. Some of them do not necessarily have the linkages to Nevis. And as we say, some people would say, well, some people have property here, some people pay taxes here. That is one thing. I think the bigger concern, the major concern, are those people who get citizenship by illegal means, whether by fake marriages, etc., and they can get married today, get a citizenship, within the next week, and their names appear on the voters list, shortly after that. So it's a matter that would definitely require some serious ventilation because you st- you have um, your people who live abroad, but who also have a vested interest. And there are many people who live abroad. I mean, we speak about the diaspora and how much they can
Yes.
contribute to the development of Nevis. That is one factor. The bigger factor, I think, are those people who do not have any legal interest in property here, who have no family ties except through a fake marriage, and those are things that we really must look at. But in terms of residency requirement, these are things that we must put to the public, get the public's input on. I would not say that as leader of the NRP, this is a position that I would take without taking it to the people to get their input as to what would they consider to be fair elections at the end of the day. A residency requirement can be for 6 months, it can be less than that. All of those are factors that we would have to look at. But definitely, you must invoke the input of the general population in order to move forward with something like that.
You know,
Yahsonn?
Dr. Janice Hodge. One of the difficulties that I have sometimes with politicians, right, is that they would have these nice, fancy responses, and this is not necessarily geared to you, because I'm going to give you an example of what I'm saying, right? Okay, we talk about all of this reform that is necessary for electoral votes and so on, and then you'll find that a government is in power and they make arguments for some of the same issues and challenges and say, well, the government is in and they did this and that. And then this same government who a couple of months ago were making these same arguments find themselves in that position where they could make those changes, but they don't. I mean, you spoke a little bit earlier on in relation to um, like knowing that um, people had fake marriages, so to speak, and let's use that issue for example. That was a big issue at the end of the election We haven't even heard of any case brought up to say, well, there's any evidence that. So I'm saying some of these things are like conversations that is convenient. How would you know per se, being the next leader, um, get in power, do some concrete things to fix these things versus like what I'm explaining? Well, it's convenient for you because that's what critique may say right now. It's convenient for you know being in that seat in the opposition to be saying this. When you get in power now, what would you do? Concrete. It could just be one or two things that you would do to concretely fix some of these things.
Yes, so as we know, the electoral office falls under the remit of the federal government. So it is not necessarily something that the Nevis Island Assembly can take responsibility for or be able to make the changes that are necessary. But what can be done is to draft the necessary resolutions to present to the federal cabinet what would be required. And then it would be up to the federal government, the federal cabinet, to either advance it or reject it. But what I see happening quite a bit is that the complaints are being made, but people just talk. And we know that talk is easy. I mean, we saw that with the Charleston Accord. There were so many provisions in the Charleston Accord that could benefit the people of Nevis. And none of those matters were addressed. It just basically was used in order to win an election. And when, you know, when you go back and you look at what was done, there was nothing tabled to address these matters that were in the Charleston Accord, an agreement, you know, and where the CCM was sitting in government, and they did nothing to address those issues. And so I am saying, while it is not within the remit of the Nevis Island administration or assembly to fix these matters, we can definitely advocate and draft the appropriate resolutions and have these discussions with the federal government with regards to what needs to be done. And once we have taken those necessary steps, once we have presented an approach that we feel is the way to go, they will then have to defend why they're not advancing the necessary steps in order for us to have fair elections. And so sometimes I think, you know, it is easy for those in opposition and for those in the on the Nevis side to say, well, you know, it is a federal matter to be dealt with. But what have we done in order to move this process forward? And I think that is where you need to present. You know, there are things that you can do in opposition, there are things that you can do in government as far as the parliament is concerned. And we would definitely have to push because, you know, you're in government today, you're not in government tomorrow. And so if your ultimate goal is to make sure that you can have fair elections, if your goal is to make sure that the people who vote, that their vote means something, and it is not a matter of, you know, people getting, you know, discouraged and don't want to vote because they feel that you know, the votes coming in, you know, carry more weight and that sort of thing. So if we want people to know and understand that they live here, they understand the challenges, and when they vote, they should be able to see, you know, the outcome for what they voted for, as opposed to the people voting for a particular, whether it's a particular party or a particular interest, but then you know, that does not carry because it is overcome by those votes that are coming in. So once that is your focus and not about how many times you can win an election and how many times you're in government, once your focus is on trying to make sure that we have fair elections, then that is what's going to drive your approach as to how you deal with this. So it's one thing to say, you know, it's the responsibility of the federal government, but there are things that we can do to ensure that the federal government understands and must take action because it is such a burning issue for the outcome of elections at the end of the day.
Yahsonn, I love
Well,
that answer, right? Because this answer gonna come back in to the destiny. Because when I asked the premier about the situation about voting, and when the premier surprised me and used the word, well, Banky, and these people gonna be living in a special enclave. I was shocked when the premier said that because I know the premier with the English language. I was shocked because the premier had all kind of things to say. It is not an a halabaloo. When he used that word, I was say, well, I guess I'm dreaming. He misspoke. I didn't so sure, but I realized he did misspoke. So then he said they will not be able to vote. But then you say, then well, you just said it's a federal. The electoral office is federal, so which means you have to have electoral carve out something special so that which means he can't control it. Can it mean the federal government have to send out for nothing because he not control. And then what single people haven't realized this Destiny project is also because the former Prime Minister, Mr. Douglas, spoke and said the white gates, they have to do anything for that to happen in St. Kitts. So I've been analyzing this thing here, because it means that if Jew them not sign up on this Destiny project here, all right, it means that St. Kitts can't get none because you cause a halabaloo Nevis. Well, how come Nevis not get the never sign up on St. Kitts? Because I mean, they're gonna have to be honest with St. Kitts people because Nevis want 40,000 people. Well, how much share St. Kitts gonna want? The white gates gonna want? If it's much bigger than Nevis, what 200,000 people? So my thing is, what is NRP plan for this Destiny project? Because these all who coming up for this election coming up, we're gonna have to talk about this Destiny project straight blank. Who wanna overpopulate Nevis and cause the young man speak here, the foreigners then come in, this much land they want, all these. And what the beautiful thing about it, Yahsonn, I want to show you. See the clip of the video that was there for this song. If you realize what the AI did, AI don't develop, If you all miss that part and realize the cruise boat in over the peninsula and all that areas that don't develop it, all these homes and the Nevis, and if you look again, all it in the hillside, a lot of homes AI put in the development, and you think this is essential? Look at the video again and you see what happened. Yes.
What I wanted to do, right? Because I know that
Yes.
the destiny issue, right, is going to take up a good bit of time. I wanted to go through some other, maybe
Go
not
ahead.
so lengthy issues, and then get back
Yes.
to the destiny. So, like for example,
Yes.
when you and Dr. Hodge spoke earlier, you alluded to the fact that elections could be called anytime. And as a result of that, because okay, like it's constitutionally due 2027. However, based on what we are seeing on the ground, we can see that some sort of campaigning is happening on both fronts. And one of the things Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge alluded to is even at this point when when you were speaking about the fixed date, we don't know which one will call first because last elections, we would have had both elections in the same year. So which means the next time around, both would be constitutionally due almost around the same time as well. Now, with that said, and with that put into perspective, Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge, critics said that NRP has not identified a caretaker for Gingerland Nevis 3, St. George's Parish, despite elections being so close. Has the party already selected someone? And if so, why has he or she not been publicly announced?
Who you said that?
Critics.
Just
Oh,
critique.
critiques. Right? You see?
Yes. Yes.
I made a post this morning, right? And I said, not everything that you see on social media is true. And there are many people who have opinions, and opinions are not necessarily facts. So the Nevis Reformation Party, we are well aware of what we have to deal with, and we will make our official announcements when we determine that is the best time to do that. We are preparing our party to be in the best position to win in both the federal and the local elections. But we will determine. And, it's interesting that as you say, the critiques mentioned Gingerland.
Mm-hmm.
We are preparing our party, and I'm happy that the critiques are looking. Maybe they're not all critiques, maybe people who just have some interest in the development of the party and want to make sure that we are positioned to win. And I can
Mm-hmm.
assure you that we will make our announcements at the appropriate time. But I do appreciate the interest in how we are preparing for the elections,
Okay.
whichever one may come first.
In prying a little bit more, is there a timeline in terms of like the announcement of that candidate?
I would not say that there is a timeline, but the key thing to take away is that we are preparing ourselves to be in the best position to ensure that for the next election, whether it's the local election, you will see the change that everybody in Nevis has been asking for. And we are positioning ourselves to make sure that we can deliver to the people of Nevis what they want, which is a change in government here.
Okay.
We understand that the elections are, imminent. There's some people speculating that the federal will come first. There's some people speculating that the local will come first. It is our responsibility to ensure that whichever one comes first, that we are, best positioned to get the outcome that we would want.
Okay. No, we on the critics, I guess, side still, and critics say that Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge is not active enough on social media, and when you post, you don't get as much likes and engagement from your supporters. Is this a fair critique, and what is your strategy to improve digital visibility and support the mobilization?
Well, digital visibility is one thing. I can guarantee you that when I go house to house and I feel the hugs and the handshakes, that I am very confident that I do have the support of the people who are going to vote. There are many people on social media, some are not registered to vote, some are overseas, there are different ways to get a whole lot of likes generated by different means. And so, you know, I put things on social media that I want the public to be aware of, not necessarily looking to see how many likes you're going to get and that sort of thing. So social media to me is as a platform to put information out there. We know the environment in which we operate in. We know people have been dismissed from their jobs because they may have not liked, a post, or they may have criticized a post made by someone in government. And so I am mindful of those things. And sometimes when I go and I do my house to house campaign, there's this song. I don't sing the whole of it, right? But there's this song that says, "You have to know, I mean, you vote for nobody have to know." I don't know if you know that song, right? But it is
Yeah.
something that people can relate to and they understand. You don't have to take 100 pictures with me. You understand my message, and we saw for the last election that that approach was effective. And I am hoping to do what is effective in order to get the outcome that you want, not necessarily what people are expecting or looking forward to. In Nevis, it's a bit tricky when it comes to the politics. You have to understand your constituents. You have to understand what they're up against. And I'm very aware of some of the concerns that they have. And that is why it is so important for me to, hit the pavements and go out and speak with them one on one. Nobody knows what we're saying to each other. And we'll see the outcome of the next elections would show whether or not social media is, was the way to go. And I would just add that it's not that I'm dismissing social media as in an important part of any election campaign. It definitely is. And at the appropriate time, we will do what is necessary in that regard. I don't know. My left hand is still hurting me a little bit. You know, I I was engaged in a little video, but certain things would come out at the appropriate time. It's all about strategy. It's all about timing. We have to do what we have to do.
I'm just getting it. I just got it. I just got it. Okay, I got you.
Right,
Late
yes, man.
moment.
Yes.
Late moment.
I want to touch on dialysis because I can remember when under Joseph Parry and the Minister Henry Daniel, he brought in, I think it was 2 dialysis containerized unit and stuff like that for people to be dialyzed. And the opposition then, when the government changes, just allow the machines them to what when they're young people around my age and stuff like that was looking outside at these machines. Even my friend Warner, we speak about the premier, nothing was done about that. I guess some of the parts was using seeing kids and stuff like that. And then everyone, it's too expensive. And then the government at the time it was in Senegal, go to Guyana, and all kind of stuff was going on. And now recently again, the hospital that has been going on for 9 years. Can I ask the premier what was the plan for the expansion of the hospital wing? And his first answer was dialysis. I was blown away that the premier mentioned dialysis because I said, well, it's alleged also that a building is going on at the front hospital gate. I remember some work I'd done at that building before. It was the orderly hut or whatever, but they expanded it and make it more comfortable. So for me, surprised me that they break down a building that was recently built less than 10 years to accommodate a next building. When the premier mentioned, I said, the dialysis is supposed to be the same building that is still there standing up. So my question to him, why didn't he fabricate that area to see at least part of the building being used? Why? So I don't want to believe that building is for dialysis. It's alleged it's for dialysis, but I don't want to believe that cause why no? And who is funding that cause is an ex secret. So that is the order. Can't be a secret because I will show all those who need to will be, but this thing got to be explained because I spoke to a dad who came and visit me at the farm, and the stuff that he told me when it comes to if you have insurance, you pay, I think it's $250. If you don't have insurance, you got to pay $200 cash, and this is a government facility in St. Kitts at the hospital. And if you don't have money, then not you. So every week you have to pay over $1,000 to be dialyzed. So I would like to know if this is true that a unit is going by the hospital. I mean, these things should have town hall meetings and just as if like a destiny. This can be a surprise because St. Kitts not treat you for your money and may say what I was told by the understand. Anybody want to say, well, I could be corrected, but this don't make no sense. So, what is NRP planned when it comes to healthcare and the hospital and what they're going to do with that building if they decide to get into power? Because then NRP can't come and say no, the building ain't what they're going to do. I stand to listen and those yes.
Yeah, so Bankie, definitely healthcare is a major issue, you know, for Nevis. And as you mentioned, healthcare has been a priority for the Nevis Reformation Party for all of these years. It is unfortunate that, you know, the current government, they make decisions based on where we are in the political and the election cycle and what they need to do in order to get back into government. The amount of money that has been spent on that expansion wing that was supposed to be a diagnostic wing where you can have all of your different, you know, diagnoses taking place, etc., where you can have the dialysis included. For them to abandon that building and start a new building to house the dialysis, allegedly, to house the dialysis, services. It tells you, one, that the building that is there is not fit for purpose. The building that is under construction now, there is no public information with regards to what it is, what is intended to do, how is it going to be operated. And in such a small space, one must wonder whether or not the necessary, studies were done to ensure that a building to provide these types of services is actually suited for that area. Now, we have looked at what is happening with the expansion wing. We have looked at the existing hospital, and to the extent that TCM would determine that they would abandon parts of the existing hospital, they would try to add on a wing that they cannot get completed. They would start another structure. I think it's about time that we look at getting a modern health facility for the people of Nevis, because the age of the Alexandra Hospital does not allow it to accommodate some of the modern equipment and services that you would need. And so with the expansion, the wing, with that not being designed to accommodate the type of services that you would want, the first thing we will have to do is to determine what can that structure be used for. I mean, it would break my heart to think that all of those millions of dollars would have to be knocked down and go to waste. So that building definitely would have to look at as to repurpose it for some other uses, and determine whether or not a modern hospital would be the way to go at this point in time. We see in St. Kitts, we're looking at a hospital that is supposed to be climate resilient, climate smart, etc. We have to be looking at those same issues here as well. And I'm going to take a little segue. I know we're speaking about healthcare. We do not have adequate healthcare in Nevis. Still, I live in the parish of St. James's, and the time it takes for the ambulance to get from Charlestown to St. James's, time is very important. And Rohan Iles, our caretaker for number 5, he has spoken over and over about the need for polyclinics. Over in St. James's, we have a medical university. We have not capitalized on having that type of a facility here on Nevis, and how we can expand the services by collaborating and forming some partnerships with the medical university. Those are things that we must look at. But certainly the need for a modern health facility with satellite polyclinics across the island, I think that is where we need to go. Not saying that we need to have all of the services. And when we look at what is being done with the airport, not having the appropriate, adequate healthcare facilities, you would think that one of the driving factors for airport, expansion would be movement for medical services, even from Nevis to St. Kitts. Because, yes, we have the water taxis, we have the ferries. They don't run 24/7. Time is always important. So when we look at what is being done with the airport, it would have been important, I think, to factor the need for moving people for medical purposes in a quick manner as one of the factors. We have not seen where the airport is being designed and built for the benefit of the people of Nevis. And that is one of the problems that we have. It seems that anything that CCM does is for the benefit of a few, the benefit of maybe the rich and the wealthy. When it comes to the issues to assist the ordinary man and woman on the street, we're not seeing that type of effort put forward. And the expansion wing that we see there, to the extent that they went to start a new building for dialysis, it tells you that that building is not fit for purpose. I would not say that we abandon it, but we would have to do the necessary studies. Certainly, it can be repurposed for other uses that are not necessarily so sensitive with regards to medical issues. The hospital itself, the mold issue that they have been having, the inability to put AC in certain areas because it was not designed. I mean, look at the age of the building. And to benefit the people of Nevis, you want to tell me that CCM never one time sat down and said, well, rather than trying to put this piece here, and rather than blocking off this piece in the basement, and rather than trying to put the dialysis treatment here to the side of the road, rather than having the lab across the road, they never once think that to benefit the people of Nevis, they can look at a new modern facility. They had $500 million under the Team Unity government. They did not deliver geothermal, which was $100 million they could have delivered geothermal. And we would not have this issue with the cost of oil, the cost of gas and electricity today. They have not done anything with regards to healthcare. Everything that they attempted have failed. They have not done anything with regards to diversifying the economy. And so sitting in government, having access to $500 million, how can we show that the lives of the people of Nevis have been improved? We cannot. And so when the premier says, you work 2 and 3 jobs, you go to the hospital, they won't accept you unless you can pay. Bankie just mentioned, the cost for dialysis. So these dialysis patients are supposed to work 2 and 3 jobs so that they can pay their bills, So it's a totally different mindset in terms of representing the people and delivering to the people what would make their lives better and more manageable. And that is something we have not seen, where the people of Nevis is a priority for the CCM government. I can assure you, the people of Nevis, they are the priority for the Nevis Reformation Party. We have shown that before. We are prepared to show it again. And all that we want are the free and fair elections, so that what the people of Nevis vote for is what they would get with regards to a government and representation. CCM government has not been able to deliver, has not been able to complete. Health services is no better. Cost of electricity is no better. Food security is no better. What is better? The Premier will tell you some rules. The roads we know are good, but you're going to need to have money for maintenance. Where is that money going to be coming from? He has not invested in any sustainable source that you can have revenue being generated. And so, the old people used to say, you have to put your money where it can work for you. You cannot put it in roads and then expect when you have some heavy rainfall and the road is, compromised. How are you going to repair it without investing that money in some sustainable way to give you some revenues? And so I know the question was about healthcare, and my short answer is that healthcare has not improved under this government. What they're proposing with the dialysis center, if that is what it is, well, we saw the expansion going up full speed the same way. It's even painted.
So, Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge, this is where I guess I'm going to differ a little bit, right? I am not going to try to assume or presume what the structure is, because at this point questions were asked, and all we are getting is that the government is going to give us and going to make an update at some point. The difficulty that I have is with that level of non-transparency and non-communication to the people who are paying them and whose monies they are using or utilizing to accomplish these projects, and whether it is directly or indirectly, because if the money is given to the NIA still by whoever, it is still our money, right? And so, what how would NRP, or how does NRP propose to be the change that we want to see? Because the difficulty, a lot of the difficulty that we're having with the Destiny project as well, is as a part of lack of transparency
Yahsonn,
and democracy. So how are you
be-
guys gonna be able
before
to?
before Dr. Hodge answer the question, look, okay, we're going to take a break in the next 5 minutes. So let me get in some of these comments, and then after we take the break, then we could get into answering the question there. 'Cause I guess the question will probably take up some time. So let me get in a few of the comments them, and then by the time that lead us into the break in the next 5 minutes as or less.
Okay. Um. Okay. Okay. And first, I'm sorry. On YouTube, we got um Robin Latham saying good night all. Lynn Brown saying greetings. Danny Herb says blessed. C. Gaskell says love that Bankie. Nothing beats a caring teacher. Kudos Valerie Thompson. Oliver Leibert says hi. Good night
I'm sorry.
all. And with Dr. Daniel-Hodge. Um, Amanda P. Newton says, why doesn't SKN have absentee voting? And that was a question that I wanted to ask. Instead of looking at all of these things in terms of saying people should have to be in the country for a certain amount of time, if that is not something that we could consider. America is doing it, other countries may do it. Why is that such something? Why is it something that is not seriously considered? Maybe that is how I should phrase it. Um, Regarding the fixed dates for elections, wouldn't we have to become a republic? That's a question from Janet Grell Hall. Pedro Jamat says, greetings, opposition is part of His Majesty's government. Pedro Jamat says, when you don't have a fixed election date, the opposition must be prepared at all times, especially a snap election may leave you scrambling. Coconut Whisperer. Coconut Whisperer is listening. Okay. See Gaskell. We are supposed to receive information regarding the new construction by the hospital entrance a couple of weeks ago. Radio silence. Evan Nisbet question, is the Nevis Reformation Party's mantra still secession for Nevis at all costs? If so, how is Nevis going to get secession now that our ticket, geothermal, has been made a federal issue? Sigaskell says, great question, Mr. Nisbet. Would you imagine that geothermal would revert to remaining under Nevis exclusive control, even though it was not addressed in the 1983 Constitution secession? C.G. Walwyn says, Dr. Daniel-Hodge, with all due respect, winning in 2026 requires a strong digital and social media strategy to reach Nevisians at home and in the diaspora. Has the NRP developed a structural social... Okay, so he continued, develop a structural social media plan to get your message to the masses, because the votes you need are also in the US, the UK, and Canada watching right now. Bobby Jones says, in regards to the hospital wing, with the millions spent, it breaks our heart whose pockets those monies went. Bobby Jones says, is Bro running the same candidates in the local and the federal elections? Because they said before they will not. Robin Latham, but we all know Coconut Whisperer is not. Matt Brantley? Okay, anyway. Over on the YouTube, sorry, on the Facebook wall now, we have. So I don't know if you want to document anything that you would want to respond to Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge, but you could also, document anything that you would want to comment on. And then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to get back with the original question. Okay, Chef Jeffers Lowy says good evening. J.J. Williams Skeet says good evening. Honorable Leader Daniel. Delicious says good night. D. Kane says howdy. Reginald Douglas says big tune. Gigi says the song is hitting hard. Those things are really happening. Jetty Taylor says Smithy, boy, come over here for a serious conversation. Chef Jeffers says good to see the youth are paying attention. Vilena Ali says good evening all. Marcella Brown says okay, well, she was tagging some other people to come in. Jetty Taylor says the lowest weeks come here. Let me show you something. Education is free tonight. Marcella Bones says Lee Wyatt. Okay, she tagging other people as well. Okay. Um, Vilena Ali says I agree with you, Bankie. Delicious Nicholas Brown says most of NRP diaspora voters come home all the time. They have Nevis's best interest at heart and truly believe performance matters. Jetty Taylor said I see a fake Taylor in the room. James Brooks should be his name. The federal government highlighted the amount of fake marriages they discovered, but yet they haven't done anything about it. Chev, our lovely PM, said he will fix that issue before his election. Then crickets. Ruthlin Hill is watching. Vilena, so true. The federal government highlighted the amount of. Okay, right. Okay, all right. They said they ain't fake no more. Okay. Malcolm says big up Yahsonn and Bankie for bringing up the issues to make voters aware. Jetty Taylor says, I want you fellas to invite independent candidate Cleon to the show. Gigi Williams says, yes, Yahsonn Tafari. Jetty Taylor says, I didn't get the joke. Help. Yeah, that was a kind of a fast one. 'Cause even Janice catch me off guard with that one. I really didn't. I really didn't get that one until after. That was like a poop. That one hit me like a poop on wheel, Janice. You know when we
Yeah, so
realize the song.
let me get into the
But
break, and then we can continue with the comments them after
okay, yeah. So
we
let
get
me
into
take
some
the
of the
break.
question and open up the lines. When we come back, the lines will be opened up also. So who wanna call in can call in. Well, I'm going into the other questions and so forth. All right, technician.
At Shabazz Organics, we believe real people deserve real food. So we're bringing you to Mansa's Last Stop, a farm where food barriers are removed and legacy is sustained. We believe there's power in picking, so we allow you to decide what leaves the farm and enters your kitchen organically.
Beat the summer heat. Come and get your carambola, star fruit, make very nice drink. You can come pick them yourself. All the trees them full of vitamin C, antioxidant, build up your immune system. Mine's the last stop. A whole shopping bag, only $10. Half a shopping bag, you pay $5. If you get $2, you must get some. Come get your carambola. Don't want to go to wait. Let's go, people.
When comfort, class, and reliability matter, choose the ride that delivers more. Imperial Rides Transportation Services, where every journey is treated like royalty. From airport transfers, private events, shopping trips, island tours, and executive travel, Imperial Rides moves you in style, clean, comfortable, on time, every time. Book your premium taxi or tour service today. Call or WhatsApp 869-665-8459 or email elandflavas@gmail.com. Imperial Rides Transportation Services. Your journey, our priority.
Yeah. Yes, son.
And we're back with we will get into some more of the comments. Um,
Let me get
okay,
into the question. Janice answered the question since we went into the
okay,
question that
yeah,
was
let's
asked
go.
before. We can't get it. Janice can continue. Do you remember the question, Janice? We're supposed to answer.
Um, yeah, I made a few notes. I think one of
Okay.
the questions had to do with absentee voting, whether or not that is something that can be considered. I certainly do believe that that is, an approach to help ensure that our nationals in the diaspora can continue to participate, where everybody has an equal opportunity, and the cost of airline tickets does not become a discriminating factor. So absentee ballots would definitely help to level the playing field in that regard. One of the recommendations made by the independent observers to elections, the OAS, was that the ballots should be counted at the polling stations as opposed to transporting them to one counting station, because we have heard many stories about what happened when trying to transport the ballots from the polling station to the counting station. That is something I think can be implemented in short order, not be expensive to do. We know even the counting of ballots can be done electronically, and that could help to minimize, human error, human interference, etc. So that whole, issue regarding absentee voting and how the ballots are counted, that is certainly an area that can be enhanced to try to level the playing field somewhat. A question was asked about secession at all costs. And that was the NRP's mantra back in the 1970s, 60s, 70s, leading up to independence. And certainly the conditions that existed at that time are not necessarily the conditions today. And, it's an interesting ask, because 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I was on a radio station um, doing some reflections on the anniversary of my father's passing. This past May 27th, it had been 14 years since he passed. And I mentioned, some of the struggles that he had to go through. And I think that is his drive for secession is what propelled him, I think, to be able to um, deliver the development of Nevis in the way that he did. I think we're at a different time now. We definitely, I think the Constitution requires 2/3 for secession. I think today where we are, a good relationship between the federal government and the local government, making sure that the people are the priority and the first interest, I think we will be able to advance the development of the country in a much more effective way than trying to do it alone. Back in the day, we were building the treasury. Our treasury right now, we're operating on fumes, as the premier would have said. And so I think, one must be flexible. One must understand the environment and the times within which we are operating. And so certainly, what would have been the operative of the day back then is not necessarily operative today. I think we speak so much about the need for collaboration and unity and strengthening. When people speak about not being able to accomplish what we want, I think oftentimes it has to do with the individual politicians, their mindsets, what they want out of politics, as opposed to looking at what we have to work with in order to advance our country. And so certainly I would say that I would not say today, secession at all costs. That has not been my mantra. My focus is really to try to develop Nevis to add a new pillar to the economy with regards to developing our natural resources in a way that can expand and diversify our economy. And I think doing that in collaboration with the federal government would be the more productive and the more effective approach that we have to deal with today. I do appreciate the comment with regards to the need for social media to reach those in the diaspora. I think, where we are now, a lot has been done. Our party, we have engaged in diaspora exchanges. We have visited, New York. We've been to Florida, and now there's a lot more connectivity with regards to, picking up your device and you can hear what is being said tonight. Back in the day, unless we actually made a visit, you would not know what is happening. But just about any radio show that you participate on, it's at the fingertips of people in the diaspora. Um, the social media platform, I think once it is strategic and targeted to the messages that we would want to get out there, it definitely can add and enhance any campaign that you are working on. So that is definitely something that we would want to develop to the maximum extent that we can. In these elections, especially in St. Kitts and Nevis, and even more so in Nevis, every tool that you can utilize to get your message out there, I think is important. And so definitely we are prepared to utilize all of the tools that we have access to.
One of the
Okay,
things
and
I've realized.
initially, Banky, before you get in, initially I had asked a question in relation to transparency and respect for us, the citizens, because we were speaking about the fact that this building that's outside the hospital is almost completed, and up to now we don't know what it is, and we have to be presuming. We have been told several times when asked that the government is going to give an answer at an appropriate time. We have the same scenario, and I think sometimes we hear the argument about, oh, you're fighting destiny because you want development for Nevis. But I think a lot of the challenge surrounding defeat surrounding destiny is as a result of the secrecy and the not being able to have access to information, even to the point where the project has been sent to St. Kitts to be reviewed by the Prime Minister, and with the public know what is in it. So we don't know, what is going to be befall us. We hear the argument of, I'm just trying to put a little bit of these into perspective, because we hear the argument of, well, we will know about it because it has to be taken to Parliament. But we know when it reaches Parliament, they have majority seat right now. So who is there to stop it at that point? So, your view in terms of this lack of transparency, and how you intend to, as a individual and party, to fix this so that we don't have this kind of complaint if Janice Daniel-Hodge is the next premier of Nevis.
Mhm. Well, some people feel that it is difficult to have transparency in government, and I always believe that if you have nothing to hide, why hide it? Why hide something? And we have campaigned against the lack of transparency. I can recall when we found out about the agreement for the airport, that we actually went over to the airport and we picketed, and it was not against development, it was against the lack of transparency. And I can say to you that I have written to the Premier on at least 3 different occasions regarding the agreement for the financing of the airport project. And I am yet to get a reasonable response. At one time he said that there's no agreement in place. And next time he said I should go ask Alexis Jeffers. And next time he said that the information, I forgot what he said, in one other occasion. But the lack of transparency has always been a major concern. And we see it across everything that this government does. Now, when we look at, for example, the hospital and where we are with that expansion wing, a contract was given to a politician. He may not have been a politician at the time. I'm not certain of his exact status. But on any given day, you look in the newspaper and you can see the tendering done by whether it's the federal government or other entities. This government does not appear to believe that tendering is part of their process for procurement of goods and services. Their approach is to find their friends and their colleagues and give them a job to do, no matter their qualifications or their competency. As the leader of NRP, understanding what is required for development projects to ensure that you can have the deliverables that you are expecting, you must tender the projects, have people submit their proposals. You must have a standardized formula for assessing these projects, and may the best project prevail. It is not hand-picking to say who you want to give the job to. And it is because of that approach we find that we have so many incomplete projects in Nevis. The Procurement Act requires that you go through a tendering process. And when you have to go through a tendering process, in order to put out a tender, you must have a pretty good understanding of what the project is supposed to be and what you are expecting the contractor to deliver. But if you tell yourself you want to build a house, you may have one picture of what you want to build. You call your friend and say, I want you to build a house for me. They have a totally different picture. So when you're now trying to get the money to stretch, you have a budget, they don't have that budget. And so you end up with cost overruns and the project not being what it is supposed to be. So you must have a standardized procurement process. You must ensure that projects must be tendered. It must be a standardized with regards to what the deliverables are supposed to be. And that is one way that you can ensure that there is transparency, because once you put out your tenders in the newspaper or other, whether on social media, etc., then you cannot tell your friend this is what you want, and you cannot tell somebody else this is what you want. The information is out there. Everybody has access to the information, and everybody must submit their proposal within the same time. And then you already know what the criteria is going to be. So there ought not be any confusion as to why this person or that person gets a contract. This government appears as if all you need to do in order to qualify for a contract is to be blue, notwithstanding your expertise. And that is where we run into these problems. And that is why we end up with all of these problems. And I keep making reference to the airport, because I cannot recall seeing any tendering for the consultants to do, whether it's in impact assessment report, to do the drawings. Think back about it. You only saw documents appearing, and there was no basis on which these documents appeared. And to this day, I can tell you the first public consultation that was had with regards to that airport expansion project, Alexis Jeffers said the fishermen would not have to move from their location. Last year's budget address, the premier and the deputy premier said that the fishermen would have to relocate. And here you're looking at a project that is going to be causing the relocation of residents, relocation of fishers, impact to the wetlands, etc. And none of it was done by tendering. And interestingly, I understand that there's supposed to be a groundbreaking sometime this month. But when you check with the planning department, there is nothing in the file to show that the project has been approved, the airport expansion project. So when you're speaking about reclaiming lands and what that requires, Yahsonn, you may be aware that in this area between Newcastle going all the way over to Booby Island and to Sink is a vast sea grass bed. That's where people can walk out and pick up conchs. That's a nursery area for fish. You're going to be expanding the airport. Lots of excavation, lots of sediment getting into the ocean. And where's the mitigation for that? You know, there's a wetland over in that area where you have, you know, different habitats, etc. And so the projects that the CCM government undertake, they end up failing because they have no standardized process. They feel that their projects must be to their friends and their family. And when you operate in that way, then you end up where we are today. My approach, and people have asked me, you know, I have family who are involved in development and whether or not, you know, how would I deal with certain situation? Well, if everybody has the same set of instructions and the same requirements and they must address the same issues, where do you find room to pick out family and friends? Of course, you know, so some provisions may deal with experience. Some provisions may deal with your track record. Some provisions may deal with the budgets that you have worked with before. But nothing is going to be hidden where you have to wonder. I mean, to give a contract to someone for over $1 million and it is exclusively for that one person, nobody else had the opportunity to bid on that project. How do you expect to get the results that you would need? And that is why I say to this day, I am concerned that the airport project, based on the approach, Alexis Jeffers as the, what is he, they say he's project coordinator? What
He's
is Alexis Jeffers? Yeah, but what is his experience with regards to airport development? Mr. Perkins now is there to join him as an engineer. But if you have no expertise in this field of work, how do you get to be the one coordinating? You know, I mean, imagine you're coordinating some activity and you don't know what is wrong and what is right. Much less the consultants, you have a language barrier. And so my concern is the same problem we had with the poultry processing facility, the same problem that we have with the hospital expansion project, the same problem that we have with the road that was supposed to be constructed from Newcastle to Fountain and got halfway and had to be abandoned. The same problem we have with the Newcastle fire station where the fire truck still cannot fit in there. It's the same recurring problem. And they are not learning.
One of the problem we have here also, we have hundreds of students finishing with high school and sixth form college on a yearly basis, both in St. Kitts and both in Nevis. Mm-hmm. And over the past, couple, said 20 years, give and take, under when system is in the power, out power, and back in power. So much hotels supposed to be coming to diversify the economy. Now we're at this. So what is enough to come to diversity in the economy?
Well, you know, it's interesting because the economy was established on financial services and the tourism sector. That is what an NRP government set out to do. And that is why we have the Bank of Nevis and the offshore financial services. And that is why we have the Four Seasons Hotel and the Mount Nevis Hotel. Because that was the
audience know the lines is open. Huh? I just want the audience to know the lines is open. If anyone want to have a phone call and have anything to say to Miss Hart, they're free to call in. Continue.
Right, yeah. So once you're focused and once you have a vision and once you know where you want to go, you can see under the NRP government, when they were driven by the need for secession, They made sure that we had a sixth form college for education. They made sure that we had a tourism sector for employment. The Four Seasons Hotel we speak about often, but also the Mount Nevis Hotel, Wally Hotel. All of these hotels came about to create employment for people. The Bank of Nevis was established, the offshore financial services, right? What CCM has done basically is to expand to some extent on what has been there, but they have not diversified. What NRP is saying, we are prepared to diversify the economy, open up new pillars on which we can grow so that you can have different job opportunities. I think Dr. Bartlett made a post about the mangoes that are going to waste. The same way that Atlanta is known as the peach capital, we have mangoes here. Why is it so difficult to establish a mango corporation where we can make use of all of these mangoes, create all of these different mango products? Because we know, Bankie and Yahsonn, you would know, it is not in the raw product, but in the value added where you make the money. And so rather than just looking at the mangoes, when we have the Mango Fest, we see all the different mango dishes, etc. What about the mango bread, the mango cake, the mango jams, the mango wine, the mango drinks, etc.? You set up a mango corporation where you have a mango as a natural resource. We've seen hurricanes come through here. The mangoes are not going anywhere. So you have a natural resource. Let us capitalize on that and develop products that we can export. We see Sinkis talking now about having home port. Imagine the people that are going to be coming in, all the cruise passengers. You have all of these mango products. You can take them to Sinkit and sell to the cruise passengers. You can invite the cruise passengers to come and visit the Mango Corporation where they can see the products being made. They can see the mango orchard. They can participate in a real Nevis experience because we are known for mangoes. We must capitalize on these resources. And that is one way that we can diversify the economy. I speak a lot about the blue economy. You know, we import so much seafood. We have not invested in the necessary infrastructure to capitalize on the marine resources, the fisheries. Our fishers, they're dying out. You go to Cotton Ground, you can't find a fisherman there. These in Newcastle, they're now concerned that they have to go to Herbert's Beach that is infested with sargassum. There's no program in place to ensure that the fishers can continue their livelihood. Under NRP government, our aim is to diversify the economy, create new job opportunities, the amount of research that you would need to do. Because while we want to develop a mango corporation, there's so many things that mango can be used for. We need to have a research and development section where you have young people doing research on mango products, all the different things that you can do with mango. You would need to have a section that deals with the marketing of our products. How are we going to package it? How are we going to export it? You need to have a section that deals with the accounting and the productivity of the operation. You need to have people out in the orchard making sure that all of the mango different varieties that we have them on display. Those must be maintained and well looked after. You come in and you could sit down and you could sample all of these different things. This is something that we have. It's a natural resource. The same way that geothermal is a natural resource that we must capitalize on. The same way that our seagrass, which captures 10 times the amount of carbon that our terrestrial forest does. You know, and how we can get involved in carbon trading. You would have heard the Prime Minister speaking about blue carbon credits and these things. These are things that we can move forward with. And as you listen to the different regional programs that speak about building climate resilience, that speak about developing our blue economy, I mean, you can't have your fishers when a cruise ship is coming in, they can't go out to fish. You know, your fishers at Indian Castle, they don't have a pier, they don't have anything to make fishing easier for them. You know, and these are the things when you invest in these things, then you get a return because then you reduce the amount of imports. We can develop aquaculture to a point where we don't have to import fish burgers, we don't have to import fish sticks. We have people here who can make these products and minimize the imports in these areas. And that is when you can start talking about economic diversification because these are things that are not contributing to the economy right now, right? These are things that we can do to minimize the cost of food because as the cost of oil increase, the cost of food is going to be increasing. If we can produce these foods right here, that cuts out that cost for transportation. And these are the things
So,
that the NRP are willing to, not willing, we already have plans in place as to how we are going to roll out these different aspects. You can't speak about food security and do not have a program to address the monkeys and the goats and the sheep that
so,
destroy
so,
your crops, you
so,
know? So
so
if you're focused,
you have gone into some areas, and I like
Let me
that
take
because
this
I
call,
have some.
Yahsonn.
Yeah, I was going to do that. So that's what I
Let,
was going to do. You answered some of the questions in relation to agriculture. However, there's a caller on the line, and we want to give the callers an opportunity to at least weigh in and maybe ask one or two questions as well. So we'll
yes.
take the
All
caller.
right.
The caller will
Caller,
speak, and then
can you go ahead?
we'll allow you to respond after.
Y-
sure.
Banky, put the
Yes,
speaker
go
closer
ahead,
to the
caller. Hello.
Picking in one or two questions for the guests. Firstly, looking at the state of readiness, right, for the party, NRP party. Well, in the discussion so far, we know that the Prime Minister got the election date in his back pocket. Shouldn't the guest, as the party leader, be thinking to have the party ready at all times? That's one question. And second question is, we are hearing rather, a lot of independents might pop up, especially on the Sinky side. And even last night, I understood that there was a party that launched last night, and they indicated they're going to be running 11 candidates, even over in Nevis. So, with the fact that it's going to probably be more candidates or participation in the next federal election than normal, what state of readiness is the guest as the party for NRP is in, especially if NRP is to take 3 seats on Nevis and have the balance of power? And I'll leave it there for now, and I'll come back in.
Right. Thank you, caller. And there was someone else trying to call in. They can always call back when no one else is here. Caller, sorry you missed a call. There was a caller online. You can always call back. Dr. Hodge, you can.
So in response to the question, I mean, we know what we are dealing with. We know we have to
Okay.
contest 2 elections, unfortunately.
Can
We don't know
you
which.
wanna pause and while I get in these 2 questions one time from this caller one time, and you can
Sure,
answer
no,
both questions
no
at the same
problem.
time? Okay.
Sure, you can, yeah, you can.
Caller, good evening.
Yes, good night, Brother Bankie. Good night, Yahsonn. And good night, Miss Hodge.
Caller, you have a noise in the background. Can you please turn it off, please? Caller,
Yes.
you have a noise. You have a radio on or something like that. A device. Can you turn it off?
I'm watching and listening.
Yeah, you can't do that, caller. You cannot. And it don't work like that.
I understand. I turned it down because.
Yes, always, please, always turn it off when you're gonna call in. Because you're gonna have a delay.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I did that. Okay. Good night again, Miss Hodge.
Good night.
It was a pleasure seeing you early up in the year in New York. You and the team. I guess you recognize the voice. If not, I will say this is Winston. Welcome. Some questions and dialogue I would have liked to ask, but I was interested in hearing what you all had to say. Well, let me say this.
three federal seats in Nevis. And I listened Mr. Jones mention how subjectable in terms of expanding. Have you guys thought about expanding over to constituents in St. Kitts? Because I personally already announced I am an independent candidate. And I already said I will collaborate, associate, link with any party except Labour. And that's on the federal. Would you or would the party have interest in expanding over to St. Kitts? As you heard, there is a party just launched and they have 11 seats. 11 candidates, sorry.
Sorry, it seems as if Bankie got frozen there for a bit. So I guess in response, you could respond to the questions in the interim.
Yeah, so with regards to the, you know, number of independent candidates that are, coming on the scene, and the the readiness of NRP. What I would say is this: our focus is really to try to create opportunities to improve the lives of people. I don't think it's just a matter of saying that we want to expand without understanding how we can be effective in that regard. And so right now, based on our constitution, there are, 8 seats in St. Kitts, 3 seats in Nevis. And we have had some discussions with others who are looking to run as independents. I think at this juncture, the people of Nevis, we feel, have been struggling for a very long time. And we would want to ensure that we could bring some relief and good representation and good governance to the people of Nevis. Um, if someone is running in St. Kitts and they would want to run under an NRP ticket in St. Kitts, I think it would require some work. I don't think it's just a matter of saying you're running for NRP and you are. After all, our party, it is the Nevis Reformation Party, and the focus is on the island of Nevis, the people of Nevis. In terms, sometimes you may have to go outside of the box in order to get the changes that you would want. But then you must ensure that, if you're going to be considering any other approach, you must be mindful of the candidates, what the objective is, and how we may have to reposition. Right now, it is, I think it's a big ask in that regard, to ask the people of St. Kitts. There's a lot of work that I think would need to get into it to understand exactly the mechanics of how something like that
Yeah.
would work. And so we are focusing right now on trying to bring to Nevis what the NRP had set out in the first instance to do, to ensure that we have an improved quality of life and to ensure that the people of Nevis can participate on any platform and not feel less than anybody else. So, and as
All
far
right.
as the readiness, we have been working from the last election. We have been working, consistently to ensure that we can be as ready as possible. There are a number of factors that must be considered in preparing for an election. We are aware of those factors, and we are happy to tick boxes in some areas and working hard to ensure that we can have all of the boxes ticked whenever the bell is rung.
All right, and it sounds as if a call is coming in, so let's see if that call is coming for us. In the meantime, while we figure that out, let's join with Reese. As he says, over 200 of us are here watching the show. Let's all subscribe and give these guys their team our full support. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. So, all of you who are watching, take 10 seconds. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the platform. If you're on Facebook, subscribe to the platform. If you're on Twitch TV, subscribe to the platform. Okay, so I don't have that call is for Bankie.
Yes.
That call is for?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
So,
let's
caller, go ahead.
Okay.
You have some noise in your phone, caller. You have noise in the background.
I don't have.
Go ahead, caller.
Okay. What I'm trying to say, Miss Hodge, apart from running an NRP ticket in St. Kitts, okay, I am running as an independent. And I don't know if anyone may have their feeling in a direction like I do, but Nevis is at my heart. I'm a Nevisian born in St. Kitts. And I believe in equality and to respect the dignity of every individual. So in my view, I will like to help Nevis, even though I am over in St. Kitts, whether I run as an independent or whether I run on an NRP ticket. And to me, it is quite simple. Because, like I said, if I win my, should the people give me that seat? Yes, I will join with NRP to form the government as an individual, and I know all the other independents that are entering. So, anything except labor. And hey, yes, equality for every individual in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Whether they vote against you or they vote for you, respect one another moving forward. So, that's my point of view. That's what I intend to do. Like I said again, should I be elected.
Thank you, caller.
As my one.
All right, the call.
So,
All right.
be open for such a coalition. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yahsonn, Dr. Hart.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Dr. Janice want to respond to that, but what I'm recognizing is that we are pressed for time, and we have not even gotten into a couple of the topics, like for example, the destiny topics, and I really wanted to ask a question in relation to NRP's position where cannabis is concerned. Okay, that's another issue that is on the table as well. But in terms of destiny, we are easing out of the topic where we were or the question that relate to transparency and being open to the public. And in relation to that, I know that Miss Daniel-Hodge would have sought to explain this a little bit on another program that I would have heard. However, it is something that is still out in the air, and so I would give you the opportunity to respond, because Premier bluntly argued that you sold your lands and then you cry foul and encourage others not to sell theirs. Can you clarify what actually happened with your land sale and justify why your opposition to the SSZ is about protecting all Nevisians and not personal grievance?
Yes. How much time do we have left?
I get in this question one thing with the call on the line. Let me get this question in. Caller, go ahead, please, quick.
Yeah, quick. I just wanted to get the guest down, right? The question I asked, the second part of my question I asked earlier, when with the balance of power shifting to Nevis, is she prepared to entertain going after prime ministership? That's what I wanted to get back at. And seeing that she's going after the premier's position, is she in a position to give the premier a grade, whether it be in the federal parliament and him parliamentarian or him locally as a premier. And I'll leave that there for the night. Thanks a lot.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
Well, let me address those questions,
go ahead. Go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
then
We're gonna give you some extra time. We're gonna give you some extra time. So take your time. Go ahead.
I
Once you don't have anywhere
appreciate
to
that.
go. Once you don't have anywhere to go.
I
Once you
do
don't have anywhere
have
to go
some
anymore.
obligations. I do have some obligations
All
after
right.
this, but yeah. So with regards to the premier's performance, I don't think there's any way that you can give him except a F in the federal and a F in the local. I mentioned earlier, the things that have not changed in Nevis with regards to healthcare, food security, economic diversification, geothermal energy. You can't see any change. It doesn't matter how many AI pictures he put up, and no matter the buzzwords that he used on the ground, you would recognize that he has not delivered in those areas. In the federal government, he would have had the Charleston Accord. He would have been arguing for fair share, and you had the issue of geothermal energy to be looked at, and he has not delivered to the people of Nevis. And the caller asked about prime ministership for St. Kitts. It's an interesting question because when we look at where the premier is with regards to being the opposition leader in St. Kitts and expect to get the type of collaboration that is needed. He's really just looking at things from a backward, or maybe trying to get more points to put on his resume. Definitely not looking out for the best interest for the people of Nevis. I am quite focused on representing the people of Nevis. I would not say that prime ministership is something that is in my um, scope of activities. My focus is really on, and my passion is really on assisting in Nevis, and so I am not looking in that direction at this point in time. I think to be Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, you need to have a pretty good understanding of what goes on in St. Kitts, what goes on in Nevis, and how best you can develop the two islands as a country to move forward. I think focusing on Nevis right now, I think that is where I am, and that is where I would like to make my mark. All right. Okay. So, with regards to the Destiny matter, I would have said it before. The premier would have made the assertion that I would have sold my land. I would have indicated that I have not owned any land in the area. My father would have owned some land, and in his will, he indicated that the land be sold, and when the lands are sold, that a portion of it would be to my benefit. For the will, there are two executors. My brother, who works in the law firm of Daniel Brantley, the Premier's law firm, and myself. With regards to when my brother approached me, indicating that he was approached by the Premier's wife, there was nothing that would have led me to believe that Destiny was down the road coming. The agreement that was signed with the developer at that time, it was South Nevis, I think it is. That agreement, the agreement itself says that the seller is the estate of Simeon Daniel. The seller, in no way does it say that the seller is Janice Daniel-Hodge. And so, to the extent that the premier could know all that he knows about this arrangement, makes you understand that he's just really, he called me a hypocrite, but I think he's really the one that is really digging to find some way. We would have signed an agreement in 2024. In July of 2025, the premier said he was not aware of any development on the southern side of Nevis. questioned by Miss Carlin Lawrence at the town hall meeting. He said he was not aware. He told us to go and read her Bible. So in 2025, if he was not aware of a development on the south side of Nevis, how would I have been aware in 2020? The SSD legislation that allows for what Destiny is proposing to do was passed in 2025. So at the time when we signed the agreement for the sale of our father's land, there was no legislation in the country that would allow the type of development that Destiny wanted to do. At that time, any development would have to be in accordance with the laws of or the ordinances of Nevis. In addition to that, the SSE legislation that now puts the final authority with the government of St. Kitts indicates that this is not something that was anticipated. So the long and short of the story is, I am not the owner of any lands. I heard the Premier say something to the extent that when you are a beneficiary and when you are an executor, that some laws converge and that makes you an owner. But I think the people of Nevis understand that I was not the owner of any land. And when we entered into an agreement, when my brother, who works with the Premier in the Premier's law firm, Bradley's law firm, came to me and told me that the Premier's wife approached him about a buyer, an investor for the property. All of the necessary information at the time that was presented, there was nothing untoward. It was only after we started to hear about these issues. And when he said that I would have collected millions, anybody who's involved with real estate would know a purchase and sale agreement is an intent to buy. It is not the sale of land. And if you go to the land registry, the land is still in my father's name. It has not been transferred. It has not been sold. I have not pocketed the millions of dollars that he has indicated. Like any real estate transaction, they would have made a deposit for the land so that they can work out what they needed to work out. While we realized what was happening, I did have the discussion about withdrawing from the agreement. Based on legal advice, it is not something that can easily be done. And so me taking the position that this is not something that we wanted to be a part of and speaking out against it, to the same extent that the Premier would say that I collected millions, I am prepared to lose the same millions because this is not the type of project that we want in Nevis. And so if the project goes through, yes, I would collect some monies because that was the intention of my father once the land is sold. I am saying we do not want that project. And if it means that the investors do not get the approval to develop, I'm prepared to not receive the proceeds from the sale of the property. I
So
think the
currently,
Premier probably thought.
so currently, the land is not completely sold or anything like that. The land is still in your father's name. There is no final payment have been made or anything like that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If the project goes through and the developers want to go through with the sale of the property, because there's a certain time within which they can decide, that they want to proceed. If that time expires and they have not proceeded, then they forfeit, the deposit. So I am saying that when we signed the agreement, we did not have Destiny on our minds. Now that we realize that Destiny is what they want, I am prepared to speak against it because I do not believe that Destiny is the type of development that is in the best interest of the people of Nevis. I do not believe it's the type of development that my father would have endorsed or supported. And so,
So you're saying the
while
deal
he's
is off
saying,
then? So
no,
you're
I'm not
saying the
saying the
deal
deal
is
is
off
off.
with your. What
No,
are
no,
you
no.
saying?
The agreement was signed before there was any knowledge of Destiny. And so that
Yes.
agreement still stands.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Premier felt that because I am to benefit, that I would be quiet and I would want to support the development, right?
Yes.
But I am saying, if when the proposal came to us, we knew that destiny is what was being proposed, I would not have signed that agreement. We did not know. But the Premier is of the
Understand.
view that because I stand to benefit, as he said, millions, that I would want to support it. To the extent that I'm saying I do not support this type of development, indicates that I am prepared to not receive
Yes.
what I'm supposed to receive, because I am the kind of person. The land has been there. You know, it's not that I have money in my account that I'm going to have to take out and do. The land has been there. We have had purchase sale agreements before that fell through. So even when I signed the purchase sale agreement, I was not counting and saying, well, wow, I'm going to get this money, because I'm a real estate agent as well. I understand you sign an agreement. Sometimes people may have to go to the bank to get funding. And if they don't get the funding, then the deal falls through, right? And I've been in that type of experience before. So signing the PSA to me was no big deal. It was just part of the process. But then for the Premier to come and say that I have collected, I have sold my lands. Lands are not mine in the first instance. They belong to my father. And nowhere in the courtroom, so
Yes.
you're going to see land registered in my name. And a purchase sale agreement has been signed. The lands have not been sold. No millions have been transferred. I have not collected millions. I have not pocketed millions. And I continue to say that this is not the type of development that we want for Nevis. And if it means that I lose the money that the investors were given, trust me, I am quite comfortable not getting that money.
Education wise, I know over the years there was an agreement between, I think it was Miami-Dade, and when the government changed, I think there was some disagreement between change between what exactly happened with that.
Miami-Dade, that was back when my father was premier. I am not certain what happened in that situation, but I know there was a program where our teachers here can be trained and they can get their degree at no cost to them. That's a program that was put in place by the NRP government. I'm not certain when the government changed, but obviously that program did not continue. And so it's something that, I guess the CCM government did not see as a priority or as important. So, but, that's as much as I can say with regards to that specific program.
Yahsonn?
Okay. In relation to Destiny still, the project is the first to be reviewed under the SSD legislation. What are your more serious concerns about how this law could affect ordinary Nevisian land ownership? And why do you call it a dark day for independence?
That's an interesting question. So, firstly, we know that the Constitution gives the Nevis Island administration exclusive authority over land development in Nevis. Under the SSD legislation, that authority has been passed to the Prime Minister of St. Kitts. And so the way that we see it is that our constitutional rights have been diminished by this SSD legislation. And so when I speak about it being unconstitutional, of course, the rule of thumb is that the legislation should not be contradictory to the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And if the Constitution says that Nevis has exclusive authority over its land development, then no legislation is supposed to transfer that authority to St. Kitts or to Destiny or to anybody else. And so that is a major concern, that the effort and all the hard work that was done to ensure that the people of Nevis had that right, has, so easily been passed on. That is a major concern as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, based on what is proposed under the SSC, where you're going to have, millionaires and billionaires acquiring property. On one hand, the Premier says that they won't be able to acquire property outside of the zone. On the other hand, he says that they have property outside of the zone that they can exchange. Based on that and based on our laws, if they're citizens, I don't see how you're going to stop them from acquiring lands outside of the zone. And if they're doing that, one can expect that the cost of land is going to increase. When the cost of land increase, then it means that less locals would be able to afford land. It was under the NRP government where you could get an acre of land for $6,000. Because under an NRP government, our focus is to ensure that our people are empowered. Our focus is to ensure that our people can build and have the opportunity to advance their families, etc. So while under NRP, we try to make sure that land can be as affordable as possible. Under the CCM government, what we're seeing with these millionaires and billionaires and so many of them coming in, they will be mandated to be citizens. They have the right to buy land. And, you can only imagine that the price of land would be increased, because if you have some land and somebody's willing to buy it for, $10, even if the value of the land is $2 and you want to sell the land, I mean, under CCM things are so hard that people who may not have even wanted to sell their land are selling their lands. But when the cost of land increases,
I
yes,
don't
you're
like to
saying?
necessarily I don't necessarily like to interrupt people when they are making their statements, but
Mm.
there was something that you said earlier on in relation to um, constitutional rights. Um, you spoke to the rights of the people to vote, and you spoke to their rights to own land outside of the enclave, however you
Mhm.
want to pronounce it. Um,
Mhm.
However, the premier, I know you're not necessarily a legal mind, but the premier is, and he sought to be presenting the argument that there is going to be some sort of carve out in relation to when it comes to voting. It will not necessarily be from the constitutional side, but it will be from the voter registration side of things. And I don't know how constitutionally they would work out the not being able to vote. I mean, sorry, to own land outside. Somebody called in when he was. I'm not sure if it was on our program or on his program, but the question was the reverse, in the sense of what if an individual who's living on our side of Nevis and not on the enclave, but purchase a property on the enclave now and lives over there, if that person would forfeit their right to vote? And his response was yes. So your response in relation to something like that? I mean, I have two kind of queries with it. One is going to segue into the last set of questions that I want to ask about in relation to cannabis, and then let me hear your view on that.
Well, the Premier likes to speak about you can't have it both ways. You can't do this and you can't do that at the same time. The Premier cannot say that it is not an enclave with separate laws and a segregated society that he's creating, and then at the same time say that it is not, you're not going to have the right to vote and you're not going to have the right um, to, to, to purchase property, etc. You know, he would want to give the impression that what is being proposed for Destiny is no different than the Four Seasons, right? But you don't see you don't see what's happening at Four Seasons. You don't see any separation of our laws. You don't see any separation of the rights that the people have. etc. People who live in the Four Seasons estates, etc., they are subject to the same laws and requirements that we have here. If somebody is working at one of the villas and something happens to them, it is our laws that would be implied. One of the things that I have looked at when they have asked to be, and in the SSC legislation, it allows for exemption from our laws. Which of our laws are they going to be exempted from? We do not know because we have not seen the development agreement. But the reference I make to some people, we have a requirement where our minimum wage is $100 per day, essentially. What is the minimum wage? Are they going to be exempt from that? Can you work over there and your working conditions are different? So the premier cannot have it both ways. He cannot say that it is no different than Four Seasons, and then at the same time still saying that they will have special requirements or special restrictions when it comes to voting and these different things. So it's an enclave based on the provisions of the SSC and what they can have, and it is akin to creating two separate societies. This is when we speak about apartheid and what happened in South Africa, when you had one set of rules for one group of people and another set of rules for another set of people. That is what is being proposed with the Destiny. And the amount of people that are supposed to be coming in under that project, 30,000 people to our 13,000 people, you can see where it is going to create major chaos. We will no longer be known as Nevis. The essence and the culture of Nevis would no longer be dominant. You would have a different set of culture and rules, etc., to deal with. And so, this is not something that we want to see. People speak about being the minority in our own land. If it is that of the 6,000 workers that Destiny is proposing to have, and only 300 would be from Nevis, well, in addition to the families that would be living there, you have an additional amount of workers. When you look at the amount of people employed at Four Seasons, we did not have to give up all of these rights. We did not have to give up all of this land. We did not need special legislation. And I think the Premier now recognizes that had this been a normal development, he would not have to pass it over to the Prime Minister, right? Had it been a normal development. But because of the special circumstances and because of all of these provisions that are not in the best interest of the people of Nevis or for Sinkis in that matter, he had to pass it over to Sinkis because only the Prime Minister can grant certain exemptions when it comes to, taxes and voters' rights and all of these sorts of things. So it is definitely an introduction to apartheid in Nevis, where you have one set of laws and rules for people within the wall that they're speaking about. And the sad part about it is that they're seeking to have about 30,000 people there. It's not like it's about 10 people who want to do this. And with 30,000 people, they have the majority in terms of population. They are supposed to be millionaires and billionaires. And so you can see how they can easily influence the election outcomes on Nevis. And to the extent that the Premier had not taken all of this into consideration, maybe, just maybe, it's a blessing that the SSC legislation requires that the approval has to be by the Prime Minister. Because had it been left up to the Premier, the Destiny project would be starting already. And we would have been seeing the beginning of our destruction.
Let me take this call, Yahsonn.
Bankie, hold on, right? With the caller, right? Please tell the caller that he would only have like a minute and it would have to be brief because we're
Yes.
going to wrap up in just a bit. So let him
No
just
problem. I
ask
got you.
question ask the question and
Yes.
then Janice will answer. So we wouldn't be an exchange. Just let him ask the question and then.
Caller, your last call. So can you be brief, and then we have to end the
Yes,
show.
this is Livingstone Williams, aka Stoneman.
Yes.
It's obvious that the Premier is a barefaced liar. If we cast our mind back, when he first started to talk about this project, I don't know if Mr. Daniel will remember this, Mr. Daniel-Hodge, that he said that these people have their money to spend and they're ready to go right away. Then it turned that it's a CBI project. So it looks like they want to use our CBI money to buy our lands. And as she quite rightly says, he has no power to dictate, even though he flip-flops and says at one time they can vote, then they can't vote, then they can buy land, then they can't buy land. He does not have the power. I asked him by what mechanism will he work this out. So he doesn't know what he wants. The Prime Minister knows. And that is why nothing is moving. Everything is in limbo.
That's it, caller?
Yes, that's
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Carla. Interesting point. Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge, I don't know how informed you are in relation to the cannabis issue, right? But you made a comment earlier in relation to, and I want to think that if you're not fully informed on it, you really should, because I think this could play a critical part of the election going forward. You spoke to the Constitution and you highlighted something that we are also highlighting on our side where cannabis is concerned, that nothing supersedes the Constitution. No law, no nothing Parliament could put in place could supersede the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. However, we have a scenario where a Rastafari brother, Sankofa, would have taken the police of commissioner to court in relation to breaches of his constitutional rights. In that case, the judge would have highlighted the fact that over the years, even the police were doing it and so on, our constitutional rights were breached, and that the government, just like you are pointing out, needed to go back to amend the Drug Act and whatever international narcotic acts that they signed on to, they need to make whatever amendment because they cannot infringe upon the claimant's constitutional rights. And those constitutional rights happen to be freedom of religion. They recognize Rastafari as a religion, and they recognize cannabis as a sacrament. They also recognize that Rastafari and every adult citizen on St. Kitts and Nevis, 18 and over, have the right to grow, possess, trim, and cure cannabis on their private property. That is constitutional. What the government started to do was to run with the medical side of things, which deals with cannabis on the public side of things. And I think this is where a lot of the difficulty comes in, because they opted to focus on that side because that's the side that they said they could make money from, taxes and licenses and all of these things. However, our constitutional rights continue to be infringed upon, even in the efforts that they made in terms of creating a Rastafari Recognition Act, which also still infringes upon our constitutional rights, and the Freedom of Conscience Act, which allows for 5 trees, which is not using the what they would call least restrictive means test when it comes to the Constitution. Because you can't tell me I have the rights to grow as much trees as I want,
Yes,
and then in your effort, you're limiting me to 5 trees. So
let
what
me
is
be
your
brief with this question. Let Janice get
Yes.
into the question, and I'll give you one more question and wrap up both question one time, because we're going to wrap up right now. The question we want to
Yes.
get in is the land at Pennies that is being cleaned And that's supposed to be some kind of Newfoundland over 20 years ago. I don't know what's going on with that. And nobody commenting about that. So, well, to answer the Yahsonn question with the cannabis, you can make everything you wrap up one time. And then we can
Okay.
get you back on next time because there's a lot to discuss. So I wanted to tap in
Yeah.
what going on at Pinnace and what is that cleaning of that land is all about. Because up to now, nobody's saying nothing.
So with that,
That's
so
my
Right.
part.
based on the backdrop that I set there, I just want to figure out like where you stand and NRP stand in relation to cannabis, and what can the people of Nevis look forward to with the NRP government at the helm and Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge at the helm
Well, it
of the
seems like I got
cannabis.
a special call coming in from overseas, so I got to take this call. God, let me hear this. I'm not sure. Caller, you want to be live?
Okay, so in the interim, um, I
Yeah.
am not sure if that caller is going to be live on air.
Okay, the caller don't want to be live. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So you could go ahead and respond, Dr. Janice Daniel-Hodge.
Yeah. Well, with regards to the cannabis matter, I think you would be aware that the NRP would have taken a position a while back with regards to, you know, promoting the development of cannabis as an industry. I think where we are today, it would really need, because as you said, we need to understand exactly what it is, the religion aspect of it is, in terms of what the Rastafarian, members of that religion would want to be able to do. I speak a lot about constitutional rights because I am familiar with a number of them. And to the extent that you want to look at cannabis under the umbrella as an agricultural uh, product, and how you can develop that product. Remember, we speak about capitalizing on our natural resources. Cannabis, of course, is a plant, it's a natural resource as well. So it's just a matter of identifying what is the end product that we're trying to get to. And when I say the end product, what is the outcome that the Rastas would want to be able to have in terms of the use of cannabis, whether or not that could fit under our constitutional rights for agricultural development of agriculture, or whether or not it is something more that is needed with regards to perhaps the commercialization. Now, we know that I would have heard the Attorney General speak about certain um, concerns with international banking requirements and stuff like that. But if it is that it is being developed primarily for the religious use, etc., and under the Constitution, we have our rights in order to develop agriculture, then these are things that we would definitely sit down and look at. And because we have the ability to pass our local ordinances that apply to Nevis, then the necessary ordinance can be developed to accomplish what is needed, provided that it is not in conflict with, national or international rules and laws, etc. So, I think that we have not capitalized on having our own assembly and the ability to make laws that pertain to Nevis, notwithstanding what the national laws may be, provided that they're not contradicting to what the federal government is saying. So if you want to leave out the medical aspect of it and focus on the religion aspect, then you sit down and you craft the necessary ordinance to ensure that you can capitalize on your natural resources without violating any other laws, etc. Right? So it's a conversation that the NRP would definitely be open to sit down to see how we can advance and to make sure that you have the benefits that you are looking for. With regards to the Penny's land banking. As far as I know, any land development, any land clearing, etc., requires a permit from the Department of Physical Planning and Environment. I would have um, looked into the matter to find out whether or not a permit was issued to anyone. There has been no indication that a permit was issued. Apparently, there is some effort now to issue not necessarily a cease and desist, but a notice of violation. It's something that is called a notice of violation.
So
I
who
am
is
very
that notice
concerned.
being? So who is that notice being put towards?
Well, it would have to be the owner of the property. I do not have the legal owner, but I was told that it's the Newfoundland people. I don't know who is representing. I was very disheartened, though, to hear the Premier say that if somebody owns a land, that they could just go in and clear the land if they want to sell it. That land has significant ecological value. You're altering the water course in that area. And the thing that you have to look at is that Pinnis Beach is at the end. Pinnis Beach is our primary beach. And when you start changing water course and you start allowing, sediment to get into Pinnis Beach area, what is now probably one of our more valuable tourist asset could be degraded, within a very short period of time. Those areas are not to be cleared without the guidance of the planning department in terms of what you can clear. I have been involved in development projects where, if a wetland is on the site, you must maintain a certain setback from the the boundaries of the wetland. And so it is unfortunate that in some areas there is quite a lot of effort being placed on trying to protect the natural resources. And here the Premier can say that, if you own land, you should be able to clear it, just to speculate for somebody to purchase it. Even if you want to clear the land, it should be done under the guidance of the planning department. And so my issue is that a violation was committed, and I have been involved in these types of situations where the site must be restored to the original
Yahsonn,
condition before any land
what,
clearing
what
took place, and a
what I see
penalty
happening
shall.
here, right? What
Mhm.
happening here? As I grew up as a youth at Penny's Beach, is and go to dress up. Yeah, all these things is not going to exist now. Because we're giving our beachfront properties to large investors for hotel, and then the beach is no longer going to be used by the locals. They're going to be ruined. Because nobody using the beach up by 4 seasons no more. Don't it? So eventually, all these things are going to exist in the next 5 years, and this is that's why what is going on with all these politics. I can't take nobody. I can't. The Nevisian and Kidishans are not serious. Because we're looking and seeing Jamaica, St. Lucia, all these other Caribbean countries having issues with their access to their beaches. And we are allowing our beaches to be developed by large developers because of money, and nobody doing nothing about it. We are sit back and relax over destiny, over white gates, and do and think this is okay. We're into a whole heap of problem when it comes to this tourism sector that we're here pushing. And the more beach
Yeah.
bars the next 10 go right up, and we don't have access to a beach. We're going to barely sticking around and just it's gonna happen. I see it happening. Can we
But
accept it?
Banky,
The people accept, the natives accepting these things.
no, I disagree. I disagree, Banky, because you see the amount of outcry from the locals and others regarding the Destiny project, and you see the Premier still march forward with that project. So I would not say that the people are
The
sitting back
people,
and
the
not
people have to rise
raising
up.
concern.
The people have to rise up in the numbers when they're serious, because the people are going to take people serious if they're not serious by just talking. The people have to see numbers, because the people have to march. The premier love is a man who loves to march. I guarantee you, if this was NRP, it'd have thousands of people on the street. I'm going to take this last caller because he's my friend. And I'm going to bring in Ash, and Ash going to make it quick.
You see, you're being biased. You see, you got to be
Yeah, I have to
fair.
be biased. I
No,
have to be biased. I have to be biased with Ash. I have to be biased with Ash. Ash, I'm going to be biased with you. 10 seconds. I get a word from you. And let's go. 10 seconds, Ash.
About the happiness thing. Well, I was away from, I come back and I was eager to go down on the beach. When I go down on the beach and I see how long the be, I said, no man. So I start to go up Paradise. When I go up, start walking going up Paradise one day, I see some things on the beach. Some people that were building up some wooden things and so on the beach. So I start to get pissed off and I start to make noise. And what make me make no more noise? No Nevisian what they working. I have some coolie head people up there work.
Yes.
No, I approach the boss about it, the premier. And I asked him, I want him by water department one day, and I asked about that situation. He tell me, well, you know, it's some people long there work, the Nevisians long there working, so you know, want to really not knowing that the man a hip bone partner.
As you talk to, you straight to like to call you. You just talk to like. Make up, you wrap up your way to call in. You wrap up, please.
All right.
It's a late moment. All right, Ash. That's a late moment. Actually, the man is the premier partner. That's what Ash said, might not be. Janice, continue. Wrap up, please.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is I would not blame the people of Nevis. I think by now the people of Nevis recognize that when the premier says ignore the noise, that he is not joking, because he has ignored every comment, every concern raised regarding the
Premier said the eyes have it.
well, there you go. And so I think the problem that we have in Nevis is the fact that the leadership, that the premier is not responsive to the people. He does not operate in a manner where you would say that he is representing the people's interests. It is proven over and over again that he's representing his interests, his family's interests, his friends' interests, while the people of Nevis continue to struggle. And my position is that under an NRP government, under my leadership, I have demonstrated on a number of different occasions where it is about the people. You're here to help to make the life of people better. And we are not seeing that now, and that change has to be made. All of these, the issues about our natural resources, when it is clear that there is no value placed on these, whether with regards to the Penny's land clearing, whether with regards to the airport development, destroying natural fish habitat, natural ecological resources, etc., handing over geothermal to the people, to the government of St. Kitts. We cannot see that agreement. We cannot see the agreement with regards to the funding for the airport. It's as if the premier is working unto his own self, not as if he is representing the people, and so he has a responsibility to report to the people and to ensure that what he is doing is aligned with the wishes of the people. I'm not saying that you'll be able to make everybody happy all of the time, but at least present the information so that people can have an understanding and awareness of what is happening, and at least be responsive to some of the concerns that arise. It's not a good look. It's a feeling of being disrespected, feeling less than. And this is the difference, the big difference I feel between the premier and myself, that I would be more concerned, more caring, more understanding of the needs of the people, and ensure that decisions are made for the benefit of the people. And that can only be done once they are part of the process, not speaking down to the people, not making them feel that you are mightier than. And so, I say that it is time. We cannot continue this type of leadership. We cannot continue with this way, because then we would lose Nevis. We have lost our natural resources. We're losing Nevis bit by bit. Soon we're going to lose our identity on our destiny. I can guarantee you on an NRP government, Destiny project. It has to be revamped totally, or else it's going to end up in court. It will not see the light of day under an NRP government. And I end on that
Thank you
note.
very much. Thank you very much. I think you would have done an excellent job, and we really want to thank you for spending the extra time with us. Um, I know that we haven't covered a number of the questions that I had in mind, so I'm hopeful that we could have you back sooner than later. Hope you're obliged to that. And like Bankie said,
Absolutely.
we started off by saying that we're having a reasoning, and I love the reasoning session. It was really
Yes, sir.
nice, and you were able to respond to the questions effectively and all that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank all those who commented on the Facebook and the YouTube. Like we said early, we apologize for not being able to, because there's so many comments here. If I start reading the
Yes,
comments,
yes,
it's gonna
definitely.
be like another 2 hour. It's another 2 hour
Take
show
up all
again,
the
just going
time.
to.
Take up all the time.
So I want to thank you, Janice, and I hope that you get some time too, even after the show, to go through the comments, and if you need to respond to anything and so on, keep the comments rolling active. I want to also encourage the 226 persons who are still here. Before you leave the YouTube, subscribe to the platform, click on the notification bell, and share the program. I want to implore that you guys do that. You're on Facebook, do the same thing. Subscribe, like, share. I really want to thank everybody. The last comment I'm seeing here, very informative. Thank you. So, Dr.
I give
Janice Hodge,
thanks.
I think that the people enjoyed you being here, and we welcome you back from the platform. In relation to cannabis, I know you're gonna have to go do some research for us when we come back for that discussion. But I look forward to that, and I look forward to engaging on the other topics, destiny, agriculture. You would have touched a lot of things that I had questions for, but because of how you navigated through the discussions, you would have responded to some of them. So thank you, Real Entertainment Network team, all the guys behind the scenes doing all the work, Reese, Ira, Alan, all those who are on the Real Entertainment Network team behind the scenes who you guys don't see and know. We really want to thank you and appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Bankie, it's not easy for us to commit to do this. This is our commitment. We are not being paid to do this, but this is what we just, do as a part of our contribution to the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we are two independent brothers who just, have that energy to express our thoughts freely. So we give thanks, and we welcome you back again, Janice, as soon as possible. We'll reach out to you, and I hope that you oblige. Bankie, your final comments, and then we wrap up until Friday, when we have another edition of Everything Agriculture. And then next week, Monday, we have another edition of Quality Time with Alan. And then next week, Tuesday, we should have Dr. Glendale Herbert, who will be on with us with another edition of everything. Sorry, the topics. So, Bankie, you're closing.
Yes, and if you put on doctor in front of Glendale, about the doctor part, but Glendale, but you add a doctor part, you get Glen. I'm professor
and
too. You
one
put on
more
doctor
thing.
in front of mine too. Call me doctor or professor
I'm
from
doing
now
that.
on too.
One more thing before you make your closing. Dr. Janice, I hope that you get your hand healed up, because the way things looking, you might need more than one hand. You might got to use it next time. Anyway, Bankie, go ahead.
Yes, I
Thank
just want
you.
to say thanks to our guests for definitely making the time out to be part of the topics and coming forth to the community and answering the question and anything that they want to be answered, and definitely that job has been done. So I just want to say I have members of your party. We had Miss Keynes, we have Ron Isles, we have you. Ain't seeing your deputy leader as yet. I've been reaching out, but ain't no response. Some point the deputy leader on blast. The topics fans want to get the deputy leader of the NRP here, Miss Bartlett, to come to the table and to face the general public. There are people who list as one of the comment was, the social media is where everybody listening, people from Canada and stuff like that. So it's important that we are giving everybody space. We're not charging anyone to come here. It's a free interview. And if they don't want to come, when the time come, election come, they don't have to pay. So I'm telling you, who coming for the free interview, election time come, they have to pay for me to talk to them. That is how we let it going to, and that's all the other media houses do. So free time is here. So when the time come, they want to be interviewed, they gotta pay. Cause they're doing it to all the other radio station, and we did it free, giving free airtime here. We don't have any sponsors. We did it on our own, and it's the right thing to do. Come when we ask, and when the time come, we're not going to be doing any free interviews. All the other radio station, they gotta pay. So it's the right thing to do. We are homegrown, we are independent, and we're not getting any sponsors, and we're still bringing everybody here for free and stuff like that. So we greatly appreciate those who keep watching and supporting everything agriculture show, the quality time with Alan, and here the topics. So Janice, thanks again for coming out and always accepting my call and my text and always responding. I wish everyone is just as easy to reach as you. Greatly appreciate that. Yahsonn?
Yeah, man, and with that, Bankie, I just want to thank Janice for spending the extra time, and the Real Entertainment Network team. Before you leave, guys, subscribe, click on the notification bell, and definitely we want to welcome you back and stick and stay with us here on the platform. And for those of you who missed it and it was getting over your head, what we were talking about is that video where Janice ended up give that punch, So if those of you who were missing it, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about the hand. Anyway, like moment to wrap things up. Full joy the rest of your evening until Friday. See you again on the Real Entertainment Network.
Into the world, the Topiks. Bankie Yahsonn. Real conversations. Hey. Lately we be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations with the people, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, you got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Tuesday night and everybody tuned in live. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing reasoning every time. Talking politics and the things affecting lives. Breaking down the stories they be trying to hide. Used to trust the system, now the trust gone. Everybody talking loud, but the facts wrong. People tired of the fake and the gimmicks too, so they coming to the topics for a clearer view. Got the whole Caribbean locked on the station. Real Entertainment Network building conversations. No script vibes, not staged for the camera. Just real people talking straight with stamina. Maybe we be having conversations, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking true. We be having conversations, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, who got facts instead. We be having conversations, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Sometimes Fridays got a special live session. Big topics got the whole place stressing. Agriculture, crime, economy discussion. Every episode spark another conversation, and the comments start flying when the live start. Everybody got a view from the heart. Some agree and some disagree too, but at least the topics bringing real views. No pretending when the mic turn on. Yeah, I send reasoning while Bankie stays strong. People checking in from overseas too, cause authentic conversation hard to come through. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, you got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking.